Okay, Mike, we're at part 2. Last time we talked about Stonehenge and Easter Island, a bunch of cool stuff.
Right.
Part 2, here we're going to talk about
pyramids of Giza.
Yep.
These are very interesting. Much more interesting than people know. Everybody already knows it's kind of a mystery to the pyramids. And but there's even more to it than you think. The pyramids are fascinating. Now, originally, there were casing stones, I should say, that were highly polished. They were about 100 inches thick on the pyramids. And if you want to bring up that first picture, there it is. Yeah, and so they had these really smooth, beautiful stones over the top. And the reason we know this is because they're being used today in other temples around Egypt.
Really?
They'd taken them off. They got loosened in a big earthquake once upon a time, and the locals took them all off.
Huh.
And these casing stones that were 100 inches thick, they're all within like 1/100th of an inch of each other.
Wow. All
of the casing stones. So it's not like they didn't just pick stones and throw them on. All of them are machined, if you want to say machined, or somehow fashioned that they're very, very, very closely together.
Right.
Very fascinating and a huge thing. They say, in fact, that it was so shiny that it was like a mirror finish, and you may well have been able to see them from the moon.
Is that right?
On a sunny day. Yeah, wow. That's right. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yep, exactly. Now we have here an artist's inception of what they think the original ones look like. There we are there.
Wow, look at that.
And you can see how there are 3 little ones in the front, and then you have these big ones that are so perfectly smooth and perfect looking in every way when they originally were made.
Yeah, not eroded.
No, exactly right. Now the next thing we want to take a look at is another thing that's partly with those pyramids. Of course, is the Sphinx. There it is. And the Sphinx is not all that big. If you go and visit it, you can walk right around. It's not like as big as the pyramids.
Yeah.
But it's very, very, very old. In fact, they didn't even know it was there for the longest time because it was covered in sand.
Yeah.
Till the storm came by and they found the top of it and they said, "Hey, we got something here."
Yeah.
And then they had to dig it out. But this is very, very old. And the very interesting thing about the Sphinx is that it has massive amounts of water erosion. And there we see part of it there. Massive amounts of water erosion. Now, this is very interesting because we are talking about the Sahara Desert. And in all 5,000 years of records we got of the Sahara Desert, they get like an 18th of an inch of rain a year.
Yeah.
There's no water. Rarely any water at all. But the Sphinx shows massive signs of water erosion. Why would that be?
Yeah.
We'll keep that in mind. Now, the pyramids are aligned with the constellation Orion. At least originally they were. Now it's offline, but at the time when they were built, they were aligned with the constellation Orion. A very beautiful and perfect alignment. There's 2.5 million blocks on this thing, and some of them are over 70 tons and hundreds of feet in the sky. So we're talking about something that was not only massive, but its tolerances are very, very close. So it was masterfully designed and masterfully built, not just in size and scope, but in alignment to other things.
Yeah.
We got something here that is a real mystery because somebody was really, really advanced when it came to this. It's 481 feet tall. So we got a picture on here of something else that's 141 feet. There's another good picture of it. And it's an interesting and fascinating piece of construction. Probably the single greatest construction item in Earth history you're looking at right there. The Great Pyramid of Giza. It's fantastic and it's perfect.
It is. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Now, we got a picture of something that is 407 feet tall. There you go. A little more recognizable and up-to-date item.
Yeah.
407 feet tall. So this goes and will tell you a little bit about how tall these pyramids are. At least the great one at Giza. 481 feet. So that's really, really tall. Now they attribute the pyramids, or the Great Pyramid, to Khufu, the Pharaoh Khufu, because there was some graffiti found that said Khufu's name on it. And so they thought, well, Khufu this must be the burial chamber of Khufu. But when you're talking about the pyramids, we have never found anybody buried in the pyramids. This is just an idea someone has. There's no evidence that it was ever used as a tomb, any of the pyramids. But we get this from the Egyptians who said, well, it was probably a burial chamber. And well, we think it's Khufu. And they've named the other ones for other guys, thinking, well, it must be, even though we never found any bodies there. There's no records that the pyramids were used as burial chamber. In fact, there's no records at all of the pyramids. These are just things that they make up as they come along. Now, we got a picture just after that Space Needle picture. Back to what we had there. Yeah. And so there's no records about the pyramid at Giza. And there's no records of saying who built them or why. There's just no records there. And the same thing goes for the Sphinx. There's no records there either. The only records we have is the ancient Egyptians of 5,000 years ago. And so that's why they say the ancient Egyptians from 5,000 years ago, those were the ones who built it. Because remember what we said at the beginning of the program. World history says 5,000 years is as far as it goes.
Yeah.
So therefore, according to world history, they had to have been built by the ancient Egyptians because there was no before that. But in biblical history, you got 1,600 years before that, right? So these pyramids are so highly advanced. They're advanced in mathematics, astronomics, geometrical standards are way, way above anything the ancient Egyptians had. And yet they say, well, the ancient Egyptians built them.
Yeah.
But the ancient Egyptians were not capable of building that kind of a thing.
Right.
There are some records, we have Egyptian records. And in those records, they say that they were already there when we got here.
Wow.
They were there, right?
So they may have copied stuff from them or something.
They may have had some attempts at copying or whatever.
Who knows, yeah.
But the north face of the pyramid is within 3/60th of 1 degree of true north. It's set up to be facing the one face, the northern face, to be right exactly at true north, and it's 3/60th of 1 degree of true north. What makes this interesting, if you want to go back to that pyramid picture, what makes this interesting is that the Meridian building of the Greenwich Observatory in England, they also aligned with the north, with true north. And it's within 9/60th of 1 degree of true north.
Wow.
So the pyramid is actually closer aligned to true north than we could do just a few years ago with the Greenwich Observatory.
Amazing.
So you're talking about something that's so advanced that you can't hardly even believe it. Now the mortar that they used to hold this together is stronger than the stone itself. That's an interesting thing.
Yeah.
Now they mix it together, and then when it dries, it's even harder than the stone itself.
Wow.
Now we don't know how to make this mortar. We've attempted at it. We don't know how to. We know what it's made of. We know the ingredients, but we don't know how to mix it so that it works like they did.
To repeat it, yeah.
Yeah, so it's exceptionally difficult to repeat. At least we haven't been able to do it at all. Now, the pyramids and the Sphinx, we got a picture of them together, are in a state of destruction.
Right.
These did not get this way because they're just real old. Something came along. There was a massive catastrophe that was so great, it destroyed everything, and it destroyed all the people, it destroyed all the records, all the furniture, everything. And the only thing left from the catastrophe are these things standing right here. And the reason they're left is because they're so massive that whatever happened left these things still standing there. There's no doubt that the pyramids had something to do with a spiritual purpose.
Right.
Not likely towards Jesus Christ either. Probably something else, especially if it's pre-flood item.
Yeah.
So the pyramids are very interesting in that way, and interesting that we found them in a state of destruction.
Yeah.
They never say that. They never say that the periods are in a state of destruction. They say, well, they're just real old, so they fell apart. But that's not true.
Yeah.
It's in a state of destruction. Now, we found other things. We're going to go around the world a little bit here. This is Göbekli Tepe, it's known as. And it's in Turkey. And this is apparently a temple. It has large megalithic stones, as you see there, thousands of pounds on these stones. There's no records of the site. There's no records of the people. There's no anything. This is found in a state of destruction.
Yeah.
Something came along, a catastrophe, that was so big and so grand and so unbelievable that it destroyed everything and it washed everything away. That's why we don't have any records of it. Now, the world has records of everything. We can go back 5,000 or 6,000 years. Everywhere around the whole world, there are records. But when we get to these ancient things, there are no records. Nobody remembers anything. There's no stones left with record. There's nothing. There's no records.
Right.
And the reason is because there was a catastrophe that was so big that it destroyed the entire place and took everybody away. And the only thing that's left are these stones. And the reason they're there is because they're so big, they got left even after the catastrophe.
Yeah.
Now, there are some holes that I want to show on the next one. There we go. This is also at Göbekli Tepe. And these are holes that were drilled at the time. And we have discovered that they were drilled with high-speed drills, faster than what we have today.
Is that right?
And that they had something around 2,000 pounds of force in the drill process. So there was about 2,000 pounds of force added to the drill, either with the weight on top or something. And so the holes were drilled very, very quickly.
Interesting.
Whereas if you were thinking an ancient people with iron tools, it would have taken months and months and months to drill a hole.
Yeah.
But as you can see, these ones are vum, 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 vum.
Yeah, wow.
So a very high technology. And so it's a big mystery because we don't have any tools left. We don't have any records left, and we don't have any people left. There's nothing. The only thing that's left are these giant things, stones, because of their size. Now, the next one is called Karahan Tepe. This is also in Turkey. And you can see this kind of a T-shaped stone. A lot of it goes down into the ground that you can't see there.
Yeah.
They're very, very large and heavy. And the same MO as the other place. There's no records. There's no advanced tools, although it took advanced tools to carve these out.
Yeah.
There's no records or anything. It's just giant stones left and nothing else. And the only reason these are left is because when the catastrophe came through, it took everything away except for the giant, massive, monolithic stones.
Yeah.
In its total state of destruction. And we want to talk about Sumerian gods for a little bit. And I think we got a picture here of Sumerian gods.
I got one more picture of those big stones.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, now this stone here looks like it's just part of the mountainside, but it actually is a stone that's cut and at one time was standing, but has been pushed down. You can see it's thousands and thousands of pounds. You can see the massive size of the stone.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. I'm with you on the gods thing.
Okay. So we got these gods, and I got a picture of them here, and these are from Sumeria. And it is said that some gods came in at one time in ancient Earth's history that the Sumerians worshipped, and they were tall, white-skinned, and they had these long beards, and that they were gods, and they told them how to do all kinds of things. And the reason I'm bringing this about is because we're going to this is in Turkey where we found these things. We're going to see something else as we move along here where we will see the same things thousands and thousands of miles away. So it'll be important to us in a little bit.
Okay.
But first, we're now going to zip on over to Kazakhstan, the Ural Mountains in Kazakhstan. In Kazakhstan, the old Soviet Union, they found up in the mountain these stones. Now, looks like concrete beams, but this is actually solid rock.
Oh, really?
That they've carved so perfectly that you can see it's almost like an I-beam shape, and it's with holes drilled in it and so forth. I think there's maybe another picture or two if I remember correctly. Oh, here we go. You can see where these lines were drilled into the rock and cut. See, these weren't cut with look at this one on the upper right.
Right.
This was not cut with a stone chisel or a brass or an iron chisel, I should say.
Right.
These were cut with something else. And there's a straight line there you can see in the other rocks. Same kind of deal. You have very high technology used here. And but there's nothing left. There's no tools. There's no people. There's no nothing. The whole thing is in a state of total and entire destruction. And The only thing left are these massive stones.
Evidence of remains is
because they're so big. That's the only thing that's left are these massive stones. Now, I think if the next picture, if we got another picture of those, I think, here's one of these giant, massive rock walls in the same place in the Ural Mountains there. The next slide has something to do with that too.
I'm getting there.
Well, I'll stall.
Here we go.
It's all good.
Oh, we're good.
Okay.
Here we go.
Okay.
This
Same thing.
See, we got a lot of pictures.
See yeah, we do, and it's pretty cool. Now these
what's this?
giant stones are stacked on top of each other.
Okay.
It's not just a line cut in. These are giant stones that have been cut and then stacked. Nobody knows anything about them. As I say, there are no records. No nothing. Just giant stones left over. There's also some geoglyphs at this site, and I don't know if the next one is a geoglyph.
These Ural Mountains ones.
Yeah, there's a geoglyph, and what you got there is carved in the rock down there is a deer or an elk or something. I think the next picture shows it a little better, and it's a little brighter. This is 900 feet across.
Wow, really?
So we're talking about a giant thing. Yeah, this is like the Nazca lines in Peru.
Right.
You know, the spiders and all that
That's
different
what it
stuff.
reminds me of.
Except it's a lot larger, and they think it's at least 1,000 years older. And it's in the Ural Mountains.
900 feet.
In Kazakhstan. 900 feet across. So that's like 3 football fields.
Yeah.
So you're talking about a very, very, very big thing. Same thing. Nobody knows who made it or why. It's totally lost in Earth's ancient past history. It's just gone. Fascinating.
Yeah, it is.
Gone. And that's in the Ural Mountains in Russia. We got these things all over the whole world. These giant megaliths that nobody has any records for.
Right.
Because they've all been gone. And everything we find, all these giant megaliths we find, are in a state of destruction. That's fascinating.
Yes.
Now, the next place we're going to go to is Pumapunku, which is a very famous place in Bolivia, sorry. Pumapunku, here it is. This is a very interesting place, and the same thing goes. You have no records of anything. All you have is the giant stuff that's left over. And you've had a catastrophe come through here. In fact, you can see the stones stuck in the mud because at one time there was a flood that came through here. It was so great, it just destroyed everything. And the only thing that's left are these giant, massive stones. And what you have here is stones that are very precisely cut. And holes that are precise holes that are drilled too. We got a picture of the H blocks coming up, the famous H blocks.
Yeah.
And you can see how they're cut so perfectly. And the back sides are cut even differently than the front sides.
Amazing, isn't it?
Uh-huh. And the official world history says, well, the Incas did this, the early Incas, that we've since lost. We don't have any records of, but because the Incas lived there in ancient Peru. That's where the Incas were. But this predates that by quite a little ways. But officially they say, well, the ancient Incas made it. But the technology is way, way vastly greater than the Incas ever had. So, but world history says the Incas did it because that's as far back as they can go because they can only go 5,000 years.
Yeah.
But you can see how perfectly these stones are cut.
Right.
These were not cut with iron chisels. The next one will show some precision drilling and interesting shapes that were cut into solid stone.
Wow.
Remember, these are not concrete. This is solid stone. And each piece was designed and cut to fit into another piece.
There's another one.
Yeah, look at the hole that was drilled and the precise line coming through.
Right.
You see how beautifully done this was.
Having a couple more here.
Okay.
Wow, look at that stuff.
Yeah, look at that. Beautifully cut. It looks like a piece of like a concrete white block or something.
Yeah.
But it's not a concrete white block.
Like it's been poured or
Yeah,
something.
that's right. It's a solid stone that was been cut out of the mountain and then drilled through. That's what makes it so fascinating. Now this, I think this is still the same place.
Complex shapes.
Yeah. And you can see the holes drilled along the edge there.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I see it.
And the beautiful complex shapes, how this was cut and formed precisely. This if we could have seen this standing in its original state, it'd be even more baffling than what we see now. Because what we have now is what's left after a disaster, a cataclysmic disaster that was so great it just destroyed and washed the whole entire thing away. Now,
I think I have one more with holes drilled.
Okay. Yeah, this is a good one.
Yeah, look at that thing.
This one, they believe. Yeah, look at the complex shapes. You see, this was not done with chisels. Now, what happened here is they made these and then they poured molten steel into the holes, which then hardened.
I'm with you. Okay.
And gave it support, right? Braces and support and everything. That's what they did. This was vastly more complex than anything any Incas ever did. This is all in Pumapunco. There's another site in Bolivia called Tiwanaku.
I have one more here.
Here, this is a good one because you see this straight line.
Yeah.
This beautifully straight line cut. And in the straight line, there's about 25 or 30 pencil-sized holes drilled right inside that crack, all the way down the line. That supposedly the ancient Incas did. But it's way in advance of anything they could ever do. Because we have the villages of the ancient Incas, and it was nothing like this.
Fascinating stuff, yeah.
Fascinating. It was highly advanced. Now, not advanced in the sense that we're advanced, right, with technology, but advanced in the sense of mathematics and geography and astro. I'm trying to say with the stars.
Right.
Help me out here. Yeah, or astronomy. Yeah.
Sorry, astronomy.
Yeah, astronomy. Right.
One of those
Thank
astro
you.
words.
Yeah, it's all the same.
Yeah.
No, actually, anyway, but yeah.
But yeah, I get your point. Yeah,
astronomy.
It's very
advanced
advanced stuff.
It's real advanced. The point is. Okay, now I think the next one is called Tiwanaku. There it is, Tiwanaku. This is also in Bolivia, and same kind of thing. You can see it's fairly big. This one particular building, fairly big. And this place also the same MOs as all the others. This is very high up in the mountains, by the way, about 9,000 feet, I think.
Yeah.
And same thing. There's no records of any sort. The only thing we have left are the giant stones and the technology left behind, because everything has been destroyed in a cataclysmic destruction of epic proportions.
Got another Tiwanaku here.
Yeah.
Look at that.
And look, it looks like I don't know. Look how precisely cut that is.
Yeah, we're side by side.
And there's other blocks cut in the opposite way to fit within those blocks. You see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Very beautifully done in solid rock. Again, it looks like poured concrete, but it's solid rock. First, they had to cut the solid rock out, and then they had to cut the complex shapes in the solid rock, not to mention move the solid rock.
Right.
And so nobody knows how any of this was done. This is highly advanced. And that's why you get all this goofy stuff. Well, how could you do this 5,000 years ago?
Yeah.
The answer is they couldn't do it 5,000 years ago.
Right.
They had to do it before then.
Yeah.
Well, in secular modern history, there isn't a before 5,000 years ago. That's the end. It had to be then. But in biblical belief, there were 1,600 years before that, pre-flood, where there was high technology being used.
Yeah.
That's what we're getting at here with all this stuff.
A lot can happen in 1,600 years, too.
That's for sure. Now, the next picture, I think, is the Sun Gate that was found there in Tiwanaku in 1903. And, yeah, this is the one. And it's kind of in the same thing in the state of destruction. There's another picture, I think, that shows the backside of it. And then, finally, they got a restored one.
Let me get to that one.
Yeah. And so they've restored some of the stuff. They didn't leave it the way they found it, but they restored some of it for tourism and so forth. Okay. And there you go. See, it's the same gate, but they've restored it.
Okay.
So that you could kind of see how it looked originally. The Sun Gate, it's known as.
Okay.
And same thing. And you got this little guy on the top of it there, you see, that's carved in. And then all those little squares are little guys, also carved in. And what they are the same Sumerian idols that we saw from before. Right. It's these guys.
Really?
Only there's a problem. these are Sumerian from Turkey. What we're looking at here is Bolivia.
Huh.
It's thousands and thousands of miles of ancient world across an ancient world, thousands of miles across, worshiping the very same gods.
Wow.
So that is very interesting because normally that's impossible. Even in 5,000 years ago, the Incas worshipped different guys than the guys
separate.
in Turkey did.
Yeah, absolutely. You're separate.
But in the ancient world, it was the same. And not only that, they found a bowl with Sumerian writing at Tiwanaku, with Sumerian writing, thousands of miles away. But it wasn't Sumerian. It was Tiwanakan with the same kind of writing.
Right.
Which tells us what? They possibly had one kind of writing in the ancient world. There wasn't all the different kinds of language. There was one language. Remember, according to the Bible, the languages were confused later.
Right.
Not pre-flood, but post-flood. So this is very interesting.
Yeah, it is.
So the next one is Machu Picchu. Machu Picchu. This is Cusco, Peru, 7,900 feet. And this is the overview of that. You can see they built this. These are like storehouses built up on top of the mountain there. And there was a huge cataclysmic disaster of such epic proportions that it destroyed everything but left the giant rocks. Now the next picture is fascinating. Here's one of the walls they built. You can see how massive these stones are. And it looks like we're missing a stairway or something because the door's way up there.
Yeah, wow.
But you can see how big and how precisely cut, because these aren't like walls we build today. If you see a white block wall, you know how they're all perfectly in order and line. And with this one, you got rocks that have edges cut off, corners cut in for another stone to fit in, and they're thousands and thousands of pounds of each one.
This other one here, kind of what you're just talking about.
Yeah, same kind of thing right there. And you can see you got these massive stones. Nobody knows how you could move something so big,
Right.
number one. And number two, if you could move them, well, you had to cut them out of somewhere first. Nobody knows how you could have cut them. And then they had to be moved. Nobody knows how you could move them. And then they had to place them. And nobody knows how you could place them. There's no mortar or anything. They just stack them on top of each other. So precisely done that no water leaks through or anything. It's absolutely...
It is crazy, isn't it?
Fantastic.
Yeah, it is.
Now, when we start, part 3 is coming up here next. And on part 3, we're going to talk about 3 or 4 other great things. And then we're going to wrap this up and show how this all fits in a biblical view beautifully. So we'll see you for part 3.